Recently, I was listening to it was actually like a debate or more like a discussion between a couple Christians, and they were discussing interpreting a portion of the Bible, and they each had their own interpretations. But one of them said something that really kind of caught my attention, and I've been thinking about it for the last couple days. I thought that's what I talked about with you today. He said that when you read the Bible, you need to take the Bible in its own terms. What he was trying to say was that the person he was speaking with, they were talking about how they were interpreting the Bible, and they were saying, well, based on these philosophical beliefs that they held and some other beliefs that they had about the world, that when they came to the text, they believed that this is what God was saying. And the other person was saying, listen, you should leave those other beliefs at the door, approach the Bible to see just what the Bible is saying, approach the Bible on its own terms. All right, I'm not sure if that's the exact word he used, but essentially that's the gist of what he was saying. And I was kind of thinking about this for a while, saying, should that be a strategy to adopt? Should you read the Bible only in light of itself? And the more I thought about this, the more I started to wonder, is that even possible? Is it possible to read the Bible only on its own terms? I kind of think that it's not. The first thing I started thinking about was, well, is there a single way to read the Bible? And I think the biggest problem with the Bible is that it is in a written language, and it's got an actual author. Well, it's got a number of authors, but let's just say to keep it simple, there's an author of the Bible, and he's writing down everything in a particular language. Well, when somebody is trying to communicate, like when I'm trying to talk to you right now, I'm trying to be careful about the words that I choose because I'm trying to get you to hear what I'm trying to say. And that's what the biblical authors have to do. That as they're writing scripture, they've got to pick the words that they know that the audience will hear. Well, this assumes something about the author, but it also, what language are they speaking, and you can see how they use their words. Maybe you could draw some conclusion about them, but it also says something about the people that they're writing to. Because see, the author is expecting the people that they're writing to hold certain beliefs, like what do certain words mean. It's just an assumption of the author of the Bible, of each one, that the readers understand what each word they're using means. And you see this where like the author of Genesis will refer to things that occur later because he's writing at a later time to an audience that understands things like he talks about clean and unclean animals in the portions of Genesis before God declares anything to be clean and unclean. And this is because by the time that it's being written, the audience already understands what a clean and unclean animal is, because it's being written later. The author is assuming something about the knowledge or the beliefs of the people they're writing to, and so they're able to include that as they're writing. That's I think, part of the problem, is that the author, in terms of when I say the problem, I'm saying if we want to approach the Bible on its own terms, well, the nature of communication, it's not just the nature of how the Bible itself is written, but all communication assumes shared understanding between the speaker and the audience. If there's not shared understanding, that's where misunderstanding comes from. But in good communication, the author and the audience share certain beliefs, certain assumptions that the speaker does not have to explain every little thing. I don't have to explain the meaning to you of each word that I'm using as I speak to you, because we both understand what they mean. Well, if this is the case, then the Bible assumes understanding of particular people at particular places in time. The Bible, then, the writer of the Old Testament is not writing to an audience that is like my community here in Southern California in the United States in 2022. They're assuming what the audience knows at the time they're writing, thousands of years ago. So there's not really a way for me today to read the Bible on its own terms, just with what's contained in the Bible itself. It would be helpful. I mean, I could just read the Bible and try to ignore everything else. But really, if I want to know the meaning, I should consider what the time and place and the people to whom the book was written. Also, I got to understand that when I come to the Scripture, I'm bringing my own assumptions about what certain words mean, certain phrases. Now, a modern translation, if somebody is trying to translate the Bible from the original language to English today, a modern translation will attempt to use modern language so that me as a modern reader, I can read it and understand it this way that the ancients would have read it. But if I read think about how quickly language changes, especially nowadays. If I read a translation that was written 100 years ago, 200 years ago, well, there's already going to have been drift in the English language for me to understand it. So if I just read it in English and I say, oh, I just got to read it on its own terms, I'm going to miss something. I'm going to bring my own assumptions about what certain words, phrases mean, certain practices. Why did somebody act like that in the Bible? If I don't understand the cultural context of the ancient world, well, and I just interpret it in the way that I would act, I'll look at certain behavior in the Bible and think, well, that's so bizarre, it's weird. It might even be rude or offensive. But if I understood maybe better the cultural context, I'd realize, oh, this was a typical thing that anybody was doing back then. And the way that person spoke to the other person wasn't rude, it was respectful, but I didn't get it. Okay, why am I going on about all this? The whole point I'm trying to say is we all have certain presuppositions that we bring to the Bible. And that's not wrong. But there's no way for us to really remove all of our beliefs. We can't wipe our brains and then just go start reading the Bible and see, now what do I understand about the Bible if I don't know anything? Every one of us, we're reading the Bible based on what else we know, including the Bible itself. We'll read Genesis and then think to ourselves, well, what does this mean in light of what I know from reading Matthew in the Gospels, a book written long after Genesis was written? Of course, we should do that. That is actually the proper way to read the Bible. I should consider, oh, what does it mean about God if God acts like this way, says this thing in one book of the Bible, and he says something different, something else in the other Bible? How does this give me a full picture of what God is like? I should read like that because that's how I'm going to learn about God. And I should take other beliefs that I have. I have certain beliefs about the world, about the nature of reality, and I should bring them to the Bible. I don't have to ignore what else I know from outside the Bible. Even the Bible itself talks about the revelation of God in the world around us. Paul says that God can be seen in the world around us, so I don't have to ignore what I know from other studies when I approach the Bible. What I should ask is, based on everything that I can see around me, what's the most reasonable conclusion? I don't have to favor one thing over another. I don't have to say because I have a belief before I read the Bible that the Bible can't change my beliefs. My beliefs should evolve as I learn more. I think any Christian who's been a Christian for a while can look back and see beliefs that they had in the past that have changed slightly. There's probably not beliefs like, I used to think that Jesus was God, now I don't. It's probably things like, oh, I used to think that I used to have this view of prayer, and now I have a more mature, maybe more robust view of prayer the more I learn. But our beliefs certainly change, and I think that's okay. So I don't want us to be afraid, I guess. When I'm thinking about biblical interpretation, I'm reading my Bible, I don't want to be afraid that I can only read the Bible by ignoring everything else. Hey, I got to read the Bible in light of everything that I believe to be true. And then at the end, I can conclude whether or not my beliefs need to change, or maybe maybe the Bible supports the beliefs I already hold. That's okay. We don't need to kind of put our blinders on and say there's nothing outside the Bible. I can only read the Bible in light of itself. I don't even think it's possible. I think even that claim itself, you must read the Bible in light of itself, might not come from the Bible. I'm not sure if there's a place in the Bible that says you should not consider anything else. I think even that might be putting something more on the Bible than it's really trying to communicate. So let's just let's consider all of our beliefs, all the things we know to be true, and let's approach the biblical text with those things in mind and see what more we can learn about God, about us, and about our relationship.